how do you get to the point where you've got critical mass of people who are able to provide training and generate impact? So we discussed, it's gone off again. No. We discussed the fact that finding time to develop the materials when you're in the throes of running a busy core is really challenging. Once you have put time and effort into developing them, the key here is to reuse them, repackage them, make them available for your trainees so that they can reinforce their learning afterwards. So we had people in our group who they may do a kind of, significant chunk of training, maybe only twice a year, but they record everything, they make it available on their system, and people can make use of that afterwards, and they then chunk it up afterwards and offer 2-hour sessions back at the ranch where people can drop in and benefit from essentially repackaging of the same material. So it's all about introducing efficiency into what you do, really. We talked about the perennial challenge of people signing up because they really want to do this training and then discovering that they've got something more urgent to do, and how you get around that. Most of the people around the table either charge a nominal fee to reduce the attrition rate, or if they're attracting a broader audience, maybe an international audience, they can get away with charging a lot more. And it's really all about demonstrating the benefit of that training and charging a fee that allows you to at least recoup some of your costs. Access to compute was an issue. So we had a lot of people who are dabbling with cloud-based systems. Some are just using their own institutional system, but then if they want to attract people from outside, that gets challenging because then those people from outside don't have accounts and are not allowed to use the system, so that can be a bit difficult. We've got quite a few people dabbling with commercial cloud-based services. It's kind of split between Google and AWS around the group, and that it can be very cost effective, actually. So one of the things that was cited was that use of Jupyter notebooks costs a mere 22 cents an hour on one system, which I thought was pretty good value, actually. Well worth coming to the other training activities, including the posters, to learn about some of these initiatives and how people are addressing some of these challenges. And then, how do you get to the point where you, like Radhika, have managed to convince your organization that they need to fund training personnel and that there's benefit to the organization of doing that. So in Radhika's case, she managed to cultivate a champion who was already really convinced that empowering researchers to do bioinformatics was the way to go. And then once you've got one training person in place, it's actually easier. It starts to snowball. It's easier to convince people to get more funding. And then the final thing, which I think already came up on this stage earlier, is teach them to fish. This is not about teaching people to point and click and use GUIs. It's really about getting to grips with the principles and being able to make use of those principles and apply them when they come out of the classroom. From my group, is there anything important that I've missed? No? Okay, good.
Any further discussion there? All right. Single cell, who's going to do this?
Hello. Yes, so we were the single cell team. It started off mostly as a support group. So many people are starting down this route, and they're trying to find the best way to proceed with their analysis and to help, and also help people help themselves. Other people are looking for the best ways to do downstream analysis, and so we talked about a bunch of different approaches. The technologies that were used in this group were varied: Bioconductor, BC Bio, SnakeMake, RShiny, ASAP, iCell, which is a Shiny app, Magestaflow, and Skater were some of the ones that were mentioned. And the big one of the big takeaways is that the process of data analysis for single-cell RNA is really iterative with the researcher right now. There's a struggle between having to iterate multiple times over the data set with small feedback from researchers and getting different results versus actually giving tools to the researcher for them to poke at the data themselves. So there's several groups have Shiny visualization tools that are available that also let them work with their own data, and they're available on GitHub, and I'm sure that we could get those URLs. I didn't note them down. And so one question was, what does the perfect single-cell RNA data set look like? So this is really, it's a complicated question, especially if you're considering replicates and batch effects and so on. But we narrowed it down to exactly when something comes off of an instrument, what lets us know that it worked properly. And so a lot of metrics were mentioned. They want 90% of greater viability of cells going in, looking at the bioanalyzer plots, looking for primer dimers, running it through the cell ranger tools. But the main thing that came out of that was the R package Seurat, which I had never heard of before, but is apparently a famous painter, so it shows how cultured I am. Looking at that package is a pretty standard QC metric now. It's at Satija Lab, I believe is the people who produce it. And then once you run through all those QC metrics, you do manual interventions after that based on the number of cells that were supplied by the researchers, but you have to be pretty liberal with this because the measurement techniques aren't exactly accurate. And so at that point, you're looking at things like the number of genes that are detected, the novelty of the transcripts. You want to detect higher numbers of transcripts, more complex libraries. And Shannon has a standard report that she has helpfully said that she will provide if anybody wants to look at it. And we were running out of time, but we really would like to get together again to talk to each other about a standard set of thresholds because Seurat gives you the numbers but doesn't give you the cutoffs. So we want to get together to talk about markers of a good data set. And so we'll follow up either in the evening sessions here or in a telecon later. Did I capture everything from our group? Okay.
That was great, thanks. One thing. That'd be great. Next to project management.
I optimized for the available ports, so see what I can connect here. So when we were done licking our wounds in the group, the time was over. So let me briefly go through. We tried to have like a list of what is haves for project management. So basically, what are we using? It starts off at Excel, usually with the excuse that it's only a small group. Leaves to the updating and sharing. So if you speak about spreadsheet, you're probably using Google Docs. Boom! The medical privacy club hits you on the head with Google Docs. So we heard about Asana this morning. In the group, we mentioned Trello. There is a thing called Forecast, for those of you who might be knowing Harvest. And Jira. In my group, we only just started a test phase for Jira to learn about how we can project manage. And I will tell you more about that in a second. So time tracking, we heard about Toggle this morning. Some of us are using Harvest, which is nicely, I don't know about Toggle, but Harvest has this nice feature that you can have it on your phone, on your browser, everything. You can switch it on. If there's an activity, it tells you, are you still working on that project? So that's kind of nice. And when we do, so also be willing to reduce the amount of detail you have in your reporting sheets. So it's good if you know how much time you spent on solving that one issue, but maybe your clients must not know that. But you have to deal with that yourself. Once, well, this one thing that binds them all and is one tool where all these other tools are merged together. Maybe this could be done with Confluence, I don't know, probably not, but we haven't found it yet. No, I guess not. What were other things? Yes, I mean, the usual topic when you speak about project management is asking for fees already a measure of project management. I do think so. We had several people who agreed with me. It filters certainly the people who have money, I assume, but also it kind of like gives you projects which are serious and which you haven't answered after 1 week, and you answer them and they say, oh, we solved it ourselves. This usually does not happen if you ask for fees. Then how do you finance this first of pipeline development, you know, this phase where you actually, you sometimes flag it as internal development because you have this bad conscience that actually you should know it, but I mean, the method is totally new, so you have to learn about it first yourself. But they're already asking you for these projects. So maybe you have an industry partner that kind of like gives you a shitload of money so you can start off developing the pipeline. That's convenient. Can be also tricky with industry and patenting and all these other things. Then maybe you simply have it built into your funding model. So when you pitch your case for your executive board, you just convince them they have to not ask you for 100% self-reliance. They have to ask you only for 50%. So you can spend 50% on internal development. Or you kind of do a overselling in the beginning. You tell them, yeah, it just takes us 19 hours to do it. In truth, it costs you 80 hours until you have it in your SnakeMake workflow and you have it running on the server. Then it only takes you 90 minutes. So then you're making money, but it takes several projects. And it takes a little bit of reserves in the beginning, talking about investment. And then, yeah, can we avoid project overload? Can we avoid next day delivery requests? And you all know what I'm talking about. So actually, this is when we got cut off in the project. So I'm shamelessly using the stage now. There's going to be on Friday our workshop. We will have the possibility to shape additional breakout groups. So if you want to talk more about project management, come there. The registration is open until Thursday night, so feel free to come. And one other point, the Veranda Pelicano has a pool, and it's next to the Rhine, so bring your bathing suits. Thank you.